Binary encoding was the next thing you guys found challenging. Now, I found it interesting that most of you felt comfortable with if statements, but thought the binary encoding was challenging. Binary encoding uses the same exact process as an if statement, but instead of typing values or doing a calculation for true and false, we just put a 0 or a 1. Because it's so similar, I'm guessing that it's not the technique that's challenging you, it's maybe the term or the concept that's confusing. So to review, binary encoding is used to turn qualitative data, that's descriptive or categorical data, into numeric data. Now, the reason for this, and we'll talk about it more later, is because we're going to do some advanced analysis on the data we have, and you can't do that with qualitative data. But you can represent that qualitative data with numbers and run analysis to find patterns and trends in that data. So we're just practicing with the binary encoding part now to get us ready for those advanced analyses that we're going to be doing in Module 7 and 8. But to practice here, we have a table with names and preferred temperatures, and then we want to take that data and binary encode it. And normally you'd have a statement up top that says, hey, make sure that those who, we think hot is equal to 1 or cold is equal to 1. We will always tell you how it should be encoded. In this case, I have a little binary encoding reference table on the right side, and we want to make hot equal to 1. So we're going to start an if statement, and we want to say if the preferred temperature is in this case equal to hot, then we want to put a 1. Otherwise, put a 0. Notice that every time I type the then, I put a comma, and the otherwise, I put a comma. Makes it easier to move through the if statements. That's as easy as binary encoding is. Now, of course, we have to lock this before we drag it down. And in this case, the hot, the preferred temperature in column B, we do want to change because Amy prefers hot, but Barry prefers cold, and we want to compare each of their individual preferences. But it's always going to be compared to the reference, whatever that is, in the reference table. So this one's going to be locked. I never want it to change from row 8. And one other thing to keep in mind is that when you are doing binary encoding, always just type the numbers 1 and 0. Don't put them in quotes, because if you put them in quotes, Excel thinks that's text instead of a numeric value, and it actually sees them differently. So 1 in quotes, Excel does not think is equal to just the number 1. So just keep in mind when you're doing binary encoding, no quotes. We want to leave these actual numeric values. So copy this down the column, and we have all of our binary encoding in place. Now, I didn't put hints for binary encoding simply because usually it will say hot equals 1, so look at hot, and if it has a 1 next to it, it's right. If there's a cold and there's a 1 next to it, that would not be right. So make sure to logically think through your answers if you don't see a hint.